Hello and welcome back to Crime Chronicles. Did an international press conference in April of 2022 really announce the beginning of the end for the Kinahan Cartel? Stay tuned to find out. With the click of a button, three faces well known to police forces internationally appeared on a giant television screen. The names and photographs of three men responsible for leading a criminal organization similar in scope to the Russian mafia and the Camorra in Naples were now visible to everyone present. The three faces on screen were those of Christy Kinahan, Daniel Kinahan, and Christy Kinahan Junior, the leading figures of the Kinahan Cartel. For years, the Kinahan Cartel has presided over a drugs operation estimated by US law enforcement to be valued at around 1 billion euros. The gang's inner workings have been a closely guarded secret. Their business interests were clandestine. They prided themselves on operating under the radar. Those days are now over. At the Dublin City Hall event in 2022, senior ranking members of multiple police forces gathered for a press conference. The Drugs Enforcement Agency, better known as the DEA from the US, the National Crime Agency from the UK, and Europol were all represented. Journalists who have followed the story of the Kinahans over the years had heard that something big was about to be announced. However, to see the faces of three of the nation's most infamous criminals plastered across a screen for all to see took the assembled media by surprise. Ireland's strict defamation laws mean there are limits to what can be published about people's involvement in crime. Until now, a lot of what was known about the Kinahan Cartel and their associates had to remain unpublished. A reward of $5 million for information leading to the financial disruption of the Kinahan crime organization, or the arrest and/or conviction of each of the three men has been offered by the United States government. The United States Treasury has also imposed multiple sanctions on the cartel. US banks and companies are barred from doing business with the three senior Kinahan Cartel members. The sanction list also lists several Kinahan Cartel associates, as well as businesses known to be affiliated with the organization. Irish national Sean McGovern, currently based in Dubai, was listed as providing financial, material, or technological support for Daniel Kinahan. McGovern is Daniel Kinahan's advisor and closest confidant, and evidence indicates that all dealings with Daniel Kinahan go through Sean McGovern. Sean McGovern has also managed communications on behalf of Daniel Kinahan, and he sells multi-kilogram quantities of cocaine. Ian Dixon is another Irishman currently based in Dubai who was sanctioned for supporting Daniel Kinahan. Ian Dixon is known to have moved large amounts of currency on behalf of Daniel Kinahan in Ireland and the United Kingdom. Dixon also oversees a fund on behalf of Daniel Kinahan and keeps track of money owed by narcotics traffickers. Bernard Clancy, currently based in Dubai, and John Morrissey, based in Spain, are both key Kinahan Cartel figures. Both were sanctioned by the American government for supporting Daniel Kinahan and providing services to the cartel, such as paying wages, organizing international drug shipments, working as enforcers, and money laundering. Three businesses associated with the Kinahans were also named on the sanction list by the Treasury Department. Those were Nero Drinks, Hupo Sports, and Ducashu General Trading. All seven men named will also be banned from boarding US airlines. The Kinahan Cartel has been going about its bloody work for decades. However, thanks to the US government announcing these sanctions, the cartel's days are numbered. Assistant Garda Commissioner John O'Driscoll has been working to bring down the cartel for years. There were many times in the last few years when O'Driscoll was asked specifically about the actions of the cartel, but he would always sidestep naming members of the cartel individually. Now the authorities are united in tackling the Kinahans. It is like he can't stop using their names. A form of self-imposed omerta was removed, and now Gardai can speak openly about the Kinahan gang, who they are, and what they're accused of. It was Greg Gatyanis of the US Office of Foreign Assets Control, one of several US officials in Ireland for the press briefing, who described how, due to the sanctions, the cartel has joined the ranks of some of the most high-profile gangs in the world. As of today, the Kinahan transnational criminal organization joins the ranks of Italy's Camorra, Mexico's Zetas, Japan's Yakuza, and Russia's thieves-in-law, said Gatyanis. The magnitude of the sanction announcement cannot be overstated. The Kinahan Cartel is living on borrowed time. Daniel Kinahan, who fled to Dubai several years ago, can no longer say that he is a legitimate businessman, wrongly painted by the international media as a crime lord. He will no longer be able to say he is just a boxing promoter, looking out for the best interests of his fighters. Only a few weeks before the US sanctions, Daniel was pictured standing beside the Provincial Minister for Sports and Youth Affairs from the government of Punjab in Pakistan. Kinahan was once again trying to portray himself as a legitimate businessman, someone who meets with politicians, someone trying to save the sport of boxing. The world can now see the truth. High-profile sports figures have been asked to think twice about supporting Kinahan. Speaking specifically about the sporting world, Commissioner Drew Harris said that what was once implicit is now explicit, and asked legitimate boxing firms to consider, is this someone they want to be involved with? Attempts will now be made by the crime gang, according to well-placed sources, to move as much money as possible away from those individuals and businesses named by the US Treasury. International police forces expect more shell corporations, as well as new businesses, to emerge as the Kinahans try to move as much money as possible. The United Kingdom's National Crime Agency, or NCA, was also represented at the press conference. Its Deputy Director of Investigations, Matt Horn, described how his officers have prevented 8 threats to life, murders and punishment beatings on the streets of the UK and elsewhere by sharing intelligence with law enforcement partners. Horn also touched on the recent conviction of Thomas Bomber Kavanagh, a senior Kinahan figure who was jailed for 21 years for his role in importing significant quantities of drugs into the UK. Horn said, "We target criminals who cause the most harm, are the most violent, those who exploit the vulnerable and dominate communities. The Kinahan crime group falls into all of those categories. They have transcended international boundaries, distributing multi-million-pound shipments of drugs throughout Ireland, the UK, and mainland Europe, and have been engaging in firearms trafficking and money laundering." He went on to say, "They thought they were untouchable, but the sanctions imposed will be a huge blow to the Kinahans. It has cut." Attention now turns to the UAE, where Daniel Kinahan has been living since he fled Spain several years ago. Many journalists have attempted to speak to the Dubai police about Kinahan. Multiple attempts have been made to get a statement from them about why they are neglecting to arrest him or extradite him. They have never answered. Gardai say they will continue to work with their colleagues to bring Kinahan to justice, but as of now, he is evading prosecution. The announcement of sanctions and large bounties has been a red-letter day for the Kinahans. The Kinahans and their key lieutenants are being cut off from their money and the ability to travel internationally. Their attempts to smear the media as liars have failed spectacularly. No longer can they hide behind their ludicrous claims of innocence. They can't run, they can only hide. Thank you for joining us on Crime Chronicles today. If you like the story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already.